El Paso goes by many names. Sun City, 915. We are known for history, culture, food, and art. In the early 1900s, development and commerce in El Paso revolved around mining and trade. The nationally recognized mission trails are just one example of the many historic sites that portray our region's rich indigenous and colonial history. Since then, El Paso has evolved, and so has its people. We take great pride in nourishing a skilled and capable workforce, with 72% of our population being bilingual. We stay competitive among other large U.S. cities. The region's border location boasts a major trade port. It allows competitive local manufacturers to produce at maximum capacity. Fleet systems are capable of worldwide distribution of parts and products. Our state-of-the-art higher education systems are nationally recognized. The Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center El Paso, the nation's first comprehensive health sciences institution on the U.S.-Mexico border, provides students the opportunities to become doctors, nurses, and researchers. The University of Texas at El Paso offers 74 bachelor's, 74 master's, and 22 doctoral programs. Local government agencies and other economic development organizations help industries become established and expand in our community. The County of El Paso is great for business, but we also keep true to our southern hospitality with plenty of outdoor recreation options. It's easy to keep active in El Paso. We are constantly looking for new industries interested in expansion. We want to offer our help and support in the process. No matter the name, El Paso is proud, strong, progressive. We are El Paso. Come see what we can do together.
You are watching the broadcast of the El Paso County Commissioners Court meetings. Commissioners Court meetings are held every Monday at 9:30 a.m. on the third floor of the El Paso County Courthouse, located at 500 East San Antonio in downtown El Paso. These meetings are open to the public. The meeting will start momentarily.
Stay cool this summer by visiting any of the El Paso County pools, Tuesday through Sunday from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. Don't forget about Family Night on Thursdays from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. For more information, call 915-771-2380.
The County of El Paso Public Works Department is offering sandbags at no cost or requirements to the public. The sandbags are outside of the facilities and are available 24 hours a day. The location of the county facilities are the following: the Road and Bridge Fabens Warehouse, located at 1331 North Fabens Street in Fabens, Texas, 79838. The Road and Bridge Canutillo Warehouse, located at 191 Canutillo Avenue in Canutillo, Texas, 79835. And the Road and Bridge Montana Warehouse, located at 14698 Van Lane, El Paso, Texas, 79938. Don't wait in line, pay online. Visit the Financial Recovery Division website at
http://www.epcounty.com/budget/financial recovery.htm to make your payments online or find out more about our kiosk locations. We now accept payments on misdemeanor, felony, and justice of the peace cases.
You can now watch Commissioners Court meetings on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and search for El Paso County Commissioners or El Paso County, Texas. Subscribe to our channels to see our latest videos.
Did you know the County of El Paso's Purchasing Department is responsible for ensuring that all items and services needed by various county departments are purchased in the manner required by the state of Texas? Whether through formal sealed bids or smaller dollar quotations, the county purchasing team is dedicated to finding the best contracting return on your taxpayer dollars. Additionally, the purchasing department is responsible for the tracking of inventory within the county and properly disposing surplus through public auctions. For questions about how to become a vendor and compete for county contracts or to learn more about public auctions, please contact us at telephone number 915-546-2048.
The 346 District Court Judge Angie Juarez Barril started the El Paso Veterans Treatment Court program in 2012 for veterans and active service members that have been arrested and charged with a felony or misdemeanor criminal offense. To be considered for the specialty court, the statutory criteria includes be a veteran or current member of the United States Armed Forces, including a member of the Reserves, National Guard, or State Guard, and suffer from a brain injury, mental illness, or mental disorder, including PTSD, or be a victim of military sexual trauma, all occurring or resulting from military service. Call Sylvia Serna, Veterans Program Director, at 915-546-2119, or email her at sserna@epcounty.com for any information.
Did you know that the County of El Paso's fixed asset control and inventory disposal is handled through the Purchasing Department? Throughout the course of each business year, the county holds live public auctions to dispose of aged equipment, vehicles, furniture, and other items that are no longer needed. To find out about upcoming auctions or to learn more about the county's inventory disposal process, contact the Purchasing Department at telephone number 915-546-2048.
You are watching the broadcast of the El Paso County Commissioners Court meetings. Commissioners Court meetings are held every Monday at 9:30 a.m. on the third floor of the El Paso County Courthouse, located at 500 East San Antonio in downtown El Paso. These meetings are open to the public. The meeting will start momentarily.
Relatively short agenda. Please join us in our Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May God bless America.
Please remain standing, if you would, for an invocation by Mr. John Pearson.
Commissioners, may the gods, the force, whoever or whatever guides you, inspire you to heal and not to harm, to unite rather than divide, to serve the people and non-human animals of El Paso County above all else. May you be motivated to respect the fundamental American principle of religious freedom and tolerance, and to adhere to the constitutional provision of separation of church and state, which, ironically, and with all due respect, you may not be doing by allowing this invocation, something to consider. Thank you for your time and service to our community. Blessed be. Amen.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Monday, July 8th, 2019. Commissioners Court is meeting in regular open session. Item number 4 is the consent agenda composed of items 4A through 4H. At the request of the Information Technology Department, we'd like to request a 1-week postponement of item number 4B. Are there any other items that members of the court or the public would like to pull for individual discussion?
Commissioners? Second?
Commissioner Perez.
Aye.
Commissioner Leon.
Aye.
Commissioner Stout.
Aye.
Commissioner Robinson.
Aye.
County Judge Samaniego is absent. Motion carries.
Do we have anybody for public comment, Cesar?
Yes, Commissioner. Item number 5, public comment. We do have Mr. Pierre Andre Usarga.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
5 minutes. Good morning. Good to see you. It's good to have you back. I don't know what you've been doing, but I'm pretty sure you've been busy, Commissioner. I actually saw your sign last week or the week before when I went down to the El Paso County Democrats headquarters, and your truck is out there. I had the privilege of speaking with some Democrats. Cool, because Democrats have a lot of good things to say about their candidates. I also had the privilege and honor of going to the El Paso Republicans headquarters last week and the week before, again urging the necessity to unite ourselves. And they also have a lot of good things to say about their candidates, but what's more interesting is how they converse about each other. I can confidently say to all Democrats and Republicans alike that I know I walked out of their offices and they were like, okay, he's made some good points. I spoke with Mr. Tejas, the chairman for the Republicans here in El Paso County. I spoke with Mary, and I didn't get the other lady's name over at the Democratic office. But it's interesting during this time of year because, for instance, I think about our president who's Republican, and we have the city of El Paso whose mayor is Republican, yet they have a difference in ideologies or what El Paso is really about. Our mayor, who spent 40 years here, has a better understanding of what El Paso is versus Donald Trump or anyone else for that matter outside of El Paso. We are always going to have a better idea as to what's going on. I am confident again in saying that I have a deeper understanding than everybody else. I can do things that the county commissioners cannot do. I can move like you cannot move, so I can get into places that you cannot. I bring I think a well-respected portfolio and background, and again, the Democrats and the Republicans they're seeing that. I'm here today and tomorrow I'll be at the city of El Paso to say that next year for 2020, 4th of July, we need to be thinking huge, monstrous. I would love to see, and let me talk to you a little bit more about what we talked about at these headquarters. They have a shirt of Donald Trump's face with an X through it at the Democrats' office. And then they have a big picture of Barack Obama on the back. And then at the Republicans, it's vice versa. They have the Democrats with X's on their faces, and then they have the Republicans on the wall. And I always, I'm like, we're better than that. I've been in jail. I've been, behind bars. I don't like it because I have to deal with a bunch of 30, 40, 50, 60-year-old kids. Grown kids. My daughter, your grandchild are more mature, more intellectual than a lot of these people who are just banging their heads against the walls, a lot like these Democrats and Republicans. It's just as political on the inside as it is outside, if not more so. And I come from that world, so when I come up here and I turn on the television and I see multi-millionaires bashing each other, I get disgusted. Sometimes I'm ashamed to be in this country, but I recognize my responsibility as a member, as a citizen of this country to do what I have to do to hopefully leave this country in a better condition than when I left it, or than when I got in here. Again, when I turn the news on, we should be seeing the next new invention. We should be seeing the next new commissioner, what he or she brings to the table. What El Paso is doing to put El Paso on the map. Those are things we should be seeing. I'm talking about generating $320 million a month versus a debate where we have a couple dozen, candidates bashing each other, hoping for the number one spot. It just doesn't make sense. So today, here in these 5 minutes, I just wanted to say that nothing very important. I'm not here to bash anybody. I just wanted to, yes, sir. I just wanted to show my face. They say out of sight, out of mind. Well, I'm inside, and hopefully I'll stick in everyone's mind. So I'm done for today. Thank you for yours, Commissioner. Lead the way. I know you have fun today. Good day. God bless us all. See you next week. God bless America. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Item number 6, presentations. Item 6A, present a certificate of recognition and a flag flown over the El Paso County Courthouse to Sergeant Ladarius Beatty of the 2019 1st Armored Division Iron Soldier of the Year.
Commissioner, thank you. It gives me great honor and pleasure to do this. I just want to start out by saying that this is a recognition that is most deserving, but Fort Bliss is the integral part of El Paso as far as the family is concerned. One description that we have would say that El Paso is Fort Bliss and Fort Bliss is El Paso. This is a Wall of Giants. Now, just give you a little background of how this came about. I believe it was 2015, the El Paso History Museum started recognizing certain entities and individuals in our community. So they inscribed it as Wall of Giants. One of the first ones that was done was Don Haskins in the 1966 UTEP basketball championship, as well as others. But in 2015, Fort Bliss was recognized. They had a big ceremony at the History Museum. Soldiers from Fort Bliss, led by General Twitty, marched down from not always from Fort Bliss, but they were bused to a certain location, and then they marched to the area where the History Museum is. And we had a big presentation ceremony, and Fort Bliss was described as one of the Wall of Giants. So I came up with the idea to come up with a Wall of Giants Award to recognize soldiers at Fort Bliss who are significant in our community, as well as good soldiers at Fort Bliss. So it had to be that Sergeant Ladarius Beatty is also the Soldier of the Year at Fort Bliss. So I think what I'd like to do is have all of us participate in this process today. But let me read the inscription we have for the award, and also give a certificate and a flag. But the Wall of Giants Award is presented to Sergeant Ladarius Beatty, Headquarters Battalion, 1st Armored Division, in recognition of your exemplary service to our nation and the El Paso community. You epitomize the line in the soldier's creed: I am a warrior and a professional. Fort Bliss is El Paso, and El Paso is Fort Bliss. July 8th, 2019.
Second. Do we need one for this presentation? Christina? Did we need a motion, official motion for this presentation, or?
Yes, my understanding it was a resolution?
It's a presentation.
It's just a presentation.
Oh, no, then there doesn't need to be a motion, excuse me. No, sir, thank you.
Sergeant, the floor is yours if you'd like to say a few words.
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Good
morning.
Once again, my name is Sergeant Ladarius Beatty. I'm from Pensacola, Florida. I want to thank you guys, the commissioners and El Paso community members, for having me here today. It's truly an honor to be receiving this award from you guys. Like I said, it's something that's going to be detrimental to the rest of my career. I can carry this on to other soldiers throughout my career, share this story with them. And it is also truly an honor to be the 1st Armored Division Soldier of the Year here in El Paso. So once again, thank you guys for this opportunity.
So we're not going to let you off the hook. There's a couple of questions that you got to answer.
Yes, Commissioner.
One, how long you been in the service?
So I've been in the service going on 5 years now.
And how did you, what led you up to becoming Soldier of the Year? I mean, what was that about?
When the competition first started about a month ago, I was selected by my Sergeant Major to compete in this competition. We had a total of 12 different tasks that we had to complete. It was a total of 12 of us that was competing for the Soldier of the Year title. Overall, I came out with the most points out of all of the tasks that we had to complete, so that's how I ended up winning this, sir.
It was very physical and very competitive.
That's correct. So it was physical, and then we have a knowledge test and things like that as well. So the things that we learned throughout our military career.
I guess you can say you're the best of the best at Fort Bliss.
If that's what you want to say, sir, then sure.
Well, you're Soldier of the Year, so you must be the best of the best.
Well, I'll take that then, sir.
Commissioner, thank you. And I've got to tell you, Sergeant, that what an honor it is for us to be able to read this into the record. And it's not competing against 11 others. It was competing against thousands. So you should be very proud of yourself, and you honor not only this courtroom, this courthouse, but the entire city and the entire family of Fort Bliss. Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
Well, in addition to the plaque that we're going to present to him, which he can hang on his wall, we're going to present a certificate and also the flag. Commissioner, would you want to read the certificate?
Sure. My pleasure. Congratulations, Sergeant Beatty.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, this says it's a certificate from the County of El Paso. This certificate and accompanying United States flag is hereby presented to Sergeant Ladarius C. Beatty, 1AD 2019 Warrior of the Year. For epitomizing the soldier's creed, I am a warrior and a professional. This is to certify that the accompanying flag was flown over the El Paso County Courthouse from May 21st, 2019 to May 27, 2019.
Item number 7, Commissioners Court. Discuss and take appropriate action to oppose the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality's Executive Director's June 18, 2019 approval of a registration application for a medical waste facility to operate at 9119 Billy the Kid Street in El Paso County, and further urge the Commission to overturn the Director's action.
Commissioner. Thank you, Commissioners. This is just sort of a housekeeping item following last week's agenda item where we approved some initial legal intervention on this matter. But last time we went through this process for the motion to overturn back in April, the Commission kept making reference that says, well, since your Commissioner's Court never took action formally opposing it, we guess you're here on your individual capacity. I didn't understand why, why that was significant. I told the Commission, I'm sure that we could obtain a resolution if it made a difference. I don't think it made a difference. But before the deadline, which is next Monday, I believe, I just was hoping the court could take action formally opposing the medical waste facility application and urging the Commission to overturn the action. So that way they can't do that this time around and say, well, the court never took action. It's just.
So would you like to make a proposition?
Yeah, I'd like to. I'd move to approve the item as written.
Second. Commissioner? Question. Couple questions. Where is this waste coming from?
According to, so it's from the application directly, most of this waste is going to be imported from other parts of Texas, New Mexico, and Arizona.
And you have any idea why they picked up Paso?
I think it was just he found a cheap piece of land and went through the process, and I think he feels he's got a good deal. He's not going to find anything cheaper. And in my opinion, this should have never been approved, or we should have never really be this far in the process. But I think he's doing his best. I think it's really a business decision just to operate at this location, regardless of how many residents it's located next to.
Well, the reason I asked you a question because this is not the first time that we've had an issue like this as far as contaminated waste coming to El Paso. We had, I know specifically in my part of town, in northeast El Paso, we had a lot of waste. In fact, we had on Railroad Drive, we had a medical waste that was illegally dumped. And it took us several years to finally get it cleaned up. In fact, we finally got the attention of TCEQ to realize that it was creating a hazard to the community. So we finally got it cleaned up. And I know there was another one that was on the east side where they had medical waste. They had in fact, I think they finally got it cleaned up and it's useful land now, but it was fenced in for a long time because of that area. So I think that we need to be more vigilant, as you are in that regard, make sure that we don't be a dumping ground for waste from other places, parts of the state or the country.
Yeah.
I got a question. I know that we had this up. It was last week, right? We talked about getting involved legally. My question is what can you kind of go through the history of of the timeline of what's happened and why we ended up getting involved legally?
Sure.
And why we're doing this? Sure.
This has been an extensive process. This applicant first filed back in the fall of 2017. It went through the process in 2018. There was a public meeting that Representative Blanco had requested in the fall. And then ultimately, in January of this year, the executive director approved that initial, approved their medical waste facility application to operate at the address stated. The problem is which we have been putting forth before the commission, is that this is a heavy residential area. This isn't an industrial area, and we believe that the commission should take that into consideration. They actually, which is a very rare step, they actually heard oral argument on this case on April 24th, and actually took the rare step of overturning this decision based on the concerns of land use, asking the executive director to reevaluate the application based on the surrounding community. And so he did that, and then the application was approved again, I believe June 18th of last month. And so it's going to go through the process again where any member of the public or elected officials have the opportunity to file what's called a motion to overturn, essentially which is an appeal to the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, asking them to overturn the executive director's decision. And then there was also the legal track, which was approved last week. The biggest issue is just that there are significant errors in the application. I'll give you one example. I can't believe it, but this goes to show you just how egregious the lack of oversight on these things are. In the application, the applicant says that there's only 266 residences within a 1 mile radius of the facility. They were required to do that analysis as part of their application. The commission had asked the executive director to reevaluate that claim. The executive director reaffirmed it and says, yes, there's 266 residential areas within a 1 mile radius. Well, there's closer to 6,700 residential units within a 1 mile radius. Wow. There's no other medical facility in the state of Texas located in such a densely populated area. And so we feel it was just a gross oversight on TCEQ's part. And so these actions, like the action today, just helps to formalize the court's opposition to this. It's something that's in my precinct, which is how I got involved in this. But so we're hoping that, again, that the commission will look at that gross oversight and realize that a facility like this doesn't belong in the middle of a residential area. It should, it's more appropriately located in an industrial zone that's further away from residents. And that's really the basis for the motion to overturn.
And when you talk about land use, who has the authority over land use in that area? So
that's the weird thing. So it's part of the application process where the applicant is supposed to do an analysis on their own. Okay, so and ideally the commission or the executive director before approving the application should really take a look at the data that they provided and verify it. I don't think that happened in this case. There's nothing in the law that specifies, these facilities can't be located if there's a certain density, for example. Land use is just sort of a criteria that the commission is going to take into consideration. How they do so, I guess, is up to their discretion. And so what the executive director provided in his approval was that he said, look, out of all the 14 medical waste facilities in Texas, the most densely populated area with a medical waste facility is 2,500 or 2,600. Okay, or there's 2,600 residences within a mile. He just provided ranges. The average facility of the 14, there's about 900 residences within a 1 mile radius. So this one would be way out of the norm. And it's supposed to be the executive director who's supposed to conduct an independent analysis of the information provided by the applicant. I just don't think that happened. And I mean, all this information is publicly available. They could have gone to our central appraisal district, requested all the residential parcels within 1 mile radius, but they just didn't do that.
And the city doesn't have zoning authority to. I mean, I know that you've been working with them, fighting this. Can you explain to me why the cities, didn't have authority over the land use?
So this applicant, from my understanding, back in 2017, went to the city asking for zoning approval in what's called an M1, which is the lightest zoning. It's a light industrial, right? It's mainly intended for transportation uses, warehousing, and things like that. The city initially rejected his application, saying, no, your operations are heavy processing. You should be located in an industrial area. Because there's no formal definition of medical waste in the city's zoning ordinance, the owner came back and I guess had some sort of meeting with the zoning staff at the city and gave, in my opinion, a very benign presentation about their activities and actually compared themselves to a recycling facility. And so they said, look, we know you don't have a medical waste facility definition in your zoning, but we're more like a recycling center. We're very clean, we're very sterile. And they made the representation that even some medical waste could actually be recycled for energy purposes, which is just not true, and they were actually forced to take that out of their application. But those were the representations that they made to the city. There was then a staff determination to then approve it as a recycling facility. And so that part of this process, as we were fighting against, there's all these different tracks, as we were going to the motion to overturn, I made the city aware. It's just like, I don't understand, and Joaquin and my staff is actually the one that worked on this. We don't understand why the city gave that approval. And when we gave them the information that's contained in the application and all the things that they're seeking to conduct on the site, I guess the city wasn't made aware of the supplemental application that was made to the state. So they then overturned that approval and went back to their original rejection of the application. So the company is appealing that city decision. So there's that going on at the city where They're going to go before the city planning commission to make the case that they should be allowed to locate there. And so that's happening at the city where they're going through that appeals process, and that hasn't been settled yet, but that's also going on simultaneously.
So that could theoretically stop the plant from being.
Probably. I mean, so the company has hired legal counsel, and I suspect that whatever the city decides, he's going to file legal action against the city to try to locate here. So that's why if the ideal solution would be if the state of Texas and TCEQ denies this application and sees the land use incompatibility of how densely populated this area is, if the application can be denied by the commission, then that hearing would be moved.
So would this resolution and the fact that we're getting involved legally, I mean, is it going to help the city's position, do you think, in
Well, it would make that process moot, because if they're unable to obtain a state permit to operate, then it doesn't matter what zoning determinations they get from the city. The issue is, so the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality has 3 commissioners. There's currently a vacancy, so there's only 2 commissioners right now. One of the commissioners left to become the executive director, and he's the gentleman who approved this application. The chairman of TCEQ was actually in favor of not approving this application altogether because based on the information that was presented at the last motion to overturn, he was concerned about the impact on the immediate surrounding neighborhood. And he indicated that he doesn't feel that this is an appropriate location. The other commissioner, Commissioner Lindley, she gave remarks to the effect of she felt that the applicant submitted everything that he needed to and that was sufficient. But I don't think that's adequate because it's not just a matter of the applicant just checking all the boxes and submitting an application. I think the TCEQ and the executive director have a responsibility to verify the information that's provided in the application. And that's essentially the argument that we're trying to make in the second motion to overturn, was that I don't understand how this got approved a second time and that the executive director essentially regurgitated the applicant's information, saying that there's 266 home residences within 1 mile. That's not even close. It's not even in the ballpark.
Is the city also going to do this motion to overturn? Or
what complicates it is because this company, from my understanding, but because this company is appealing to the city, if I guess they intervene at this point or do similar things what we're doing, it makes it seem like there's already sort of an unfair bias against the company and would further their grounds for legal action against the city. So the city, I think, is trying to let it take its course, let it go before the CPC without intervening. I think, again, anybody's free to file a motion to overturn individually, but I think the city doesn't want to in any way sort of influence the outcome of that so they could be accused of not giving him a fair shot to go through this appeals process. So the city's
So we're joining, I think, together and trying to help the city with this as well. And I think that's, I commend, all the research and the work that you and your office and your staff have done. I think it's really important that the county get involved in something like this. It's going to affect thousands of could affect thousands of residents if something were to happen, and I'm completely supportive of it.
I appreciate that, Commissioner. I want to thank Joaquin and George and my staff. I mean, they've spent many hours on this. I also want to thank the county attorney's office has been just really great in lending their support in this effort. It's not. There's always the argument, sort of not in my backyard. That's not the case that's making here. It's just this is a heavy industrial use, and it should, there's industrial.
Somebody dropped the ball, and now we're unfortunately having to react to that, right?
I would say that's accurate. Yes.
Yeah.
And I've got to tell you, I know the area very well. Just by going out there and visually looking, you can tell that there's many more homes than what they reported.
Right. And so again, that information is all publicly available. So that's the information that we'll be submitting to the state and saying here is the publicly available information. We don't know where you guys got the 260 some odd residences, but here's the actual number, and we'll be providing evidence to that. And we hope this will be overturned, but a motion to overturn is very rarely granted. TCEQ typically always approves these applications, but we hope that the information in this one is particularly compelling where they'll grant the motion to overturn.
Well, it's kind of, to me, it seems like it'd be a no-brainer, but you look at the stringent requirements for restaurants, for the cooking oil they use for disposal of that. There are very, very strict rules they buy, which means that the contamination level is greater with medical waste than it is from cooking oil at a restaurant. But the rules are very stringent for providers or people that have restaurants for disposal of the oil from their restaurant. So
it is just, it's odd the way that many of these things are approved, considering the strict regulations that they have in other areas. But again, and that's why I appreciate the court's action last week, because in the event that the commission does, approve this, again, there was one commissioner who felt that just because the application was completed, that's sufficient. And that's where that would go to court to, I guess, to have a judge really say, is that really the standard, just to have an application submitted? Or, why have land use analysis in the first place? Why have it as a criteria as part of the application process?
Thank you, Commissioner. Great job. Cesar, I think we have a motion and a second already.
Yes.
Commissioner Perez.
Aye.
Commissioner Leon.
Aye.
Commissioner Stout.
Aye.
Commissioner Robinson.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 8, Judiciary and Corrections. Approve and authorize the funding from General Fund General Administration for the month of July 2019 for the Texas Veterans Commission Fund for Veterans Assistance Grant ending June 30th, 2019. If necessary, this allocation for the grant that is pending the official notice of grant award from the Texas Veterans Commission Fund for Veterans Assistance. Funds will only be necessary if the notice of grant award is not received and accepted by Commissioners Court.
Good morning, Letty.
Good morning, Commissioners. Leticia Vizcaino, Grant Analyst, and with me is Adrian Almareya with El Paso Veterans Treatment Court. I'm here on behalf of the program to request that 2 full-time positions that are funded by the Texas Veterans Commission grant be funded temporarily by the general fund for 3 pay periods not to exceed $21,000 until the grant award has been fully executed. Do you have any questions?
Commissioners?
I think we've done this since I think I've been on the court, and typically we get the grant, so I don't have any problem with moving forward. So I'll move to approve.
And it's a timing issue, as I understand it. The grant more than likely, or it is approved, and it's just a matter of when it comes in.
The program has received notice that they will be approved for the FY 19-20 grant period in the amount of $300,000.
Second motion.
Commissioner Perez.
Aye.
Commissioner Leon.
Aye.
Commissioner Stout.
Aye.
Commissioner Robinson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 9, Litigation, Justice, and Law Enforcement. Approve and authorize the county judge to sign the renewal of the District Attorney's Information Management System interlocal governmental agreement with the City of El Paso for fiscal year 2020, which includes no budget increase over the fiscal year 2018 or fiscal year 2019 budget. Contract number 2019-0406.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Each year we come before Commissioners Court for an approval of the DIMS interlocal with the City of El Paso. DIMS stands for District Attorney Information Management System. This is a procedure we've had in place since 1994. It has worked as intended to allow us to make efficient decisions with regard to charges presented to the DIMS lawyer. We man a phone 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The decision is made there whether we will accept a charge or not. If we do not, then the defendant is released and does not go over for booking. So today we're before you again for renewal of the DIMS interlocal for fiscal year 2020. We're asking for approval of the DIMS interlocal and to approve the county judge signing off on the DIMS interlocal. And if approved, we would ask for 2 originals to be signed so that the county can have a set of original signed documents as well as the City of El Paso. So we're asking for your favorable approval of the DIMS interlocal for fiscal year 2020.
And thank you, Commissioner. Ms. LaRose, I've got to say that in the early 90s, I was one of many who accompanied Mr. Esparza to Houston to look at their plan there, the way they did that. And I can say over the many years, that program has saved both the city and the county millions of dollars and a lot of hours that somebody would have been incarcerated than having the case declined anyway. So a tremendous time saver, a tremendous money saver that really our taxpayers really aren't aware of, but it's been going on since the 90s. So please congratulate Mr. Esparza and your staff. It's a great program.
I will, and you're exactly right. When we originally had the program studied in the 90s, when we began it, the decline rate was about 20%. I think it hovers between 15 and 20% of those charges. So those are individuals that we made that decision. We could make it 2 weeks down the road when the case would get to us, but we're making the decision at that time so that it does not get to the booking at the jail. So it's been a great program. The district attorney has been very innovative with this program. We've also noticed additional uses for that program. As the Commissioners Court has utilized the First Chance program, there's a component where we're utilizing DIM's resources to check criminal history for the means of people going into that program. So the district attorney was very innovative in this program, and it has functioned as we intended.
Thank you. Second?
Commissioner Perez.
Aye.
Commissioner Leon.
Aye.
Commissioner Stout.
Aye.
Commissioner Robinson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners, and we appreciate it very much, your support of this.
Thank you.
Item number 10, Health and Social Services. With a correction from the County Attorney's Office, item number 10 should read, approve and authorize the County Judge to sign the Notice of Grant Award for the fiscal year 2019-20 Texas Veterans Commission General Assistance Grant to provide rental and utility assistance to veterans, veterans' dependents, and veterans' surviving spouses in our community in the amount of $300,000 for the term beginning July 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020. There's no county match required. Contract number 2019-0475.
Commissioners, good morning. Ron Hessler with Veterans Assistance, here today requesting approval to administer the 2019-2020 Texas Veterans Commission Fund for Veterans Assistance, specifically to provide rental, mortgage, and utilities assistance for qualified veterans and dependents. It's in the amount of $300,000, and as was mentioned, there's no match. Last year, with a grant of $200,000, we were able to assist more than 320 individuals, and this year we predict that it will be around $450,000. It's a great grant, provides us an opportunity to help veterans stay in their homes, to keep their utilities on, and also in the event that they are homeless or needing new lodging, we can provide security deposit and rent to carry them over until they're in a more secure financial place. So pending your approval.
Commissioner?
Morning. How are we disseminating the information?
Disseminating information about the grant?
Yes.
We inform all of the local agencies, all of the resources in the area of the grant, all of the different meetings that we go to. We put that out. Specifically, we inform the other agencies that have the same grant or provide assistance and tell them that our grant is open. And we have a pretty thorough, robust distribution list, and we'll send that out. So we're always looking at every opportunity to spread the word around the community that our grant is active and ready to start, and that we have funds.
Well, specifically as far as to how to get directly to the recipients.
To the recipients?
Yes. or the applicants?
Through those agencies that normally they're going to those agencies. Sorry, Roland, just to jump in on that. But a lot of times they're going to those agencies and either they don't qualify under those agencies or that agency doesn't have the particular type of resources that they need, and then that agency will direct them to us. We have no shortage of applicants. Well, Roland mentioned we assisted over 300 people last year. We ran out of money within a few months. Do you remember the exact timeline?
Well, essentially, we were out of money in November, but it was technically December, but we had exhausted all of the funds by November. And as Betsy mentioned, yeah, our grant does not have a cap, so we're able to assist any veteran or dependent so far as they qualify. And organizations know pretty readily right now that we're able to provide assistance to veterans and dependents who may not qualify elsewhere. So, yeah, we've had no issues. Now, there's always probably going to be one or two people that they either haven't gone in for assistance for that financially or for something else, and then we're made aware of this grant. Certainly with those, we are always looking for every opportunity to spread the word and to make those funds available to them as well.
Well, the utilization of the money, I understand that running out is a good thing to a certain degree. We always need more, but my concern is that we make sure we are touching all bases, because you said, like for example, you said service organization. Are we talking about the Veterans Service Organization, or are we talking about social service agencies?
Veterans service organizations. Now, I will tell you, we also do make our social service agencies, which is our own department, our community services department, aware. And as you know, we have limited funding under community services for emergency situations.
Right.
And so to try to make that money go as far as we can get it to go, if somebody comes into Irene's shop at Family Youth Services Center and they qualify under this grant, she'll connect them to Roland, so that we can make sure the funds that the county has overall to assist with housing and utility assistance goes as far as possible.
So again, we are disseminating information to the service organization. So we're like the DAV, the American Legion, VFW. We're getting information to them.
Yeah, we spread the information. Like I said, we have a distribution list that's very robust and touches all of the different veterans resources and agencies throughout the entire community. And additionally, we do speak with other governmental agencies where veterans may come in looking for assistance that can't be provided, and they know to direct them towards us as well. So whether it's the Veterans One Stop or Project Amistad or Salvation Army, who have a similar grant to us, we're all in touch, and they know that our funds are available and how much we have left. And then vice versa, when our funds are exhausted or depleted, we then refer individuals to them as well. And we've been able to work through all of the different major organizations, the VA through their homeless department, through Endeavors, through the One Stop with their mental health care providing. So I'm confident that we're reaching the majority of people who will benefit from these services. And certainly, like I said, we're always aiming and looking for more ways and opportunities to reach out to those who don't know about these services, who are not aware that they're there. But as much as possible, that's our ambition and the goal that we have.
But one last thing, we're doing it by direct mail or email?
The application process?
Yeah, disseminating information.
Not direct mail. It's through email and then through different meetings that we attend with different organizations. We go to several meetings a week and throughout the month, and we distribute that out, and then it's spread throughout. Everything from the Veterans Treatment Court to the Veterans Advisory Board within the county, and then other meetings as well that they have throughout the veterans community.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Commissioner Perez.
Aye.
Commissioner Leon.
Aye.
Commissioner Stout.
Aye.
Commissioner Robinson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Real quick, Commissioners, I also wanted to mention, this is probably Rollins' last Commissioners Court meeting. He's relocating, and just want to thank him for all the work he's done. As you know, this grant is basically 50% more we received this year than last year. It's continued to grow. They do a great job administering it and making sure these benefits get out to the veterans in our community. So thank you for your service, Rollins.
Well, good luck to you.
Good luck. Thank
Good
you
luck
very
to
much.
you.
Thank you.
Where are you going?
I'm from the Seattle, Washington area.
You'll be back.
I've been back twice before.
You're probably right.
Yeah, lucky three, maybe.
Good luck to
Thank
you.
you, Roland.
Item number 11, Human Resources. Receive a presentation regarding application of the El Paso County Ethics Code to candidates for county elected offices.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Good morning, Commissioners. Forgive me. Melissa Carrillo with Human Resources. Today I come to you as staff who advises your County Ethics Commission, and today we have a presentation that, together with Cristina Sanchez, who also advises from a legal perspective, we want to share some information with you. During the election season in 2018, certain aspects of the code came to light where the Ethics Commission truly began to think that there were areas within the code that needed to be clarified so that candidates for office and those already holding office better understood what was expected of them. And so in January of this year, our Elections Commission advised ourselves, myself and Christina, to meet with the Elections Commission as well as Commissioners Court to present those changes to you all so that any feedback or guidance you still had, we could take back to that Ethics Commission. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Sanchez, who will present on the next few slides, and then I'll work on closing it up.
Morning, Commissioners. Christina Sanchez, Assistant County Attorney. I believe Ms. Carrillo had mentioned we had presented this item to the Elections Commission last Tuesday to go over some of these proposed changes to the Ethics Code. And just by way of background, how this came to be, we knew, I believe back in the summertime, that the Ethics Code was going to apply to some of our candidates for county public office. But when we went back and we looked at the Ethics Code and its application, particularly as how it pertained to candidates for county public office, what was the county doing? What was the Ethics Commission doing to review that, to inform these individuals who are running for the county public office seat as to the application of the Code of Ethics and what that meant. In particular, as far as it pertained to the Commissioners Court, we knew that we were definitely going to have a new county judge. We did not know yet about a commissioner's seat, what that would happen, but what were we doing to inform those individuals? So we had never looked at that far back before to review it and to figure out how were we notifying individuals and how that application came to be. So as we were doing that, we took a deep dive into some of those definitions. And when I say we, I'm talking about the Ethics Commission, of course, with the assistance of Ms. Carrillo, as to what that meant and what that looked like. In particularly, what we were looking at was the definition of a candidate for public office. And I'll just go through the slides pretty quickly. Very quickly, it was, actually that's wrong, it should have been established by state law in 2009. In 2009, the El Paso Code of Ethics. Very quickly, for the benefit of Commissioner Robinson, the Ethics Commission is a separate entity. It's not overseen by the Commissioners Court, although the Commissioners Court does have appointments to the Ethics Commission, but is its own independent entity, and it has its own statute that it follows and that it abides by, to include the Code of Ethics. Again, going back and in particular, again, how the Code of Ethics apply to county public servants. This definition is set out by statute in your local government code, but it's also further defined in the Code of Ethics. And what we came to look at is we knew that the county public servants that apply to county officers, county employees, appointments to any boards or commissions that the Commissioners Court has, And again, in particular, what I'm going to be focusing on for this presentation is candidates for nomination or elected to an elected county office. And if you read that, and if I go on, that's as broad a definition as you could imagine. Because once we looked back, we were wondering, what does it mean to be a candidate for public office? Does that mean as soon as you make that public announcement? Does that mean when you file your campaign finance report? Or does that mean that once you've received your party's nomination or have won the primary? And so as you can see, there was a pretty wide interpretation of that, and particularly as we looked at the elections code and what that meant. And so in looking at that and reviewing that, we went back to the Ethics Commission to ask them when in your recommendation, in your thought process, how should this be structured? Should it be as broad as when an individual makes that announcement? Of course, being mindful that county staff has to go out there once an individual has announced to, one, let them know that a code of ethics applies to them as a candidate for a county public office? Or do we want to narrow that down so that we know that everybody now is on notice, is on the same playing field, is receiving training that the code of ethics applies to them now? And so how do we get that information out? And so the Ethics Commission preliminarily, we will be taking this to them very soon in this July meeting, had requested that it become a very narrow definition, not very narrow, but that we narrow that definition so that in all fairness for those candidates, one, they're getting the training, they're getting the outreach by not only our HR staff, but also by the Elections Commission, who has partnered, and Melissa will go into that information, who has partnered with HR to help notify those candidates, as well as those party leaders. When we talked to the Elections Commission last week, both the chair of the Democrat and the Republican Party serve as part of the Elections Commission. They now will be taking back this information to their individuals who are considering running for county public seat as to their application. And so the definition that we're looking at proposing is to narrow it to a candidate for an elected county office, whether opposed or unopposed, whose name will appear on the general election ballot. We are going to do a little bit of tweaking in that because we want to make sure that we also capture write-in candidates as well, and our elections administrator, Lisa Wise, gave us some feedback on that. But this essentially is what the proposed definition will look like. And what this does is it narrows the period of coverage of the ethics code to candidate winners from each of the respective political parties, your Democrat or your Republican nominee, any independents, and again, any potential write-in candidates until election day. So it covers that period of time, either the March or May primaries up until that individual gets sworn into office, if you will. We know that it covers the individual from election day to that day that they get sworn in, but this takes it back and really seeks to narrow that definition of the application of who a candidate is. And just to back up a little bit, when we were looking at this definition, one of the two issues that really stood out and really what was very intentional going back several years when the ethics code was created is trying to figure out and trying to ensure that what the ethics code was trying to do was to really trying to capture those instances or issues that it applies to any procurement matters. So we know that there is a cone of silence in your ethics code in which nobody is supposed to be conversing with any potential vendors who have submitted a bid to the county except for your purchasing agent, those individuals that are directly involved, and also to narrow down that definition of any lobbyist. And so we know history had taught us or had shown once information had come out, unfortunately several years ago after the scandal that had plagued the county, is that a lot of those conversations, once we knew that those indictments had come down, unfortunately had come out once before anybody was elected to office. This was months prior when you're talking to individuals and you're essentially meeting with these individuals. And so that's what the purpose really is to do, is to intentionally capture that period of time for those candidates. And it's not to say that anybody would, but it's trying to make sure that that spirit of the ethics code of why it was created is captured, and that in all fairness to those candidates, they are being informed and they are being trained as to what this means and how it applies to them. Because I believe that had been a concern in the past, that individuals were not being informed or trained as to what it meant. And I'll stop there just very quickly. Commissioner Robinson.
The question I have on the second line there
Yes, sir.
is candidate for elected county office, whether opposed or unopposed. I read that as once you file your document with your intention to run, in other words, your application that you're going to be a candidate.
No, sir. If you move on from after the comma where it says whose name will appear on the general election ballot, that means that individual, whether they won, that means that if the individual has won the primary of whatever political party that they're running for, that name is going to appear on the general election, that name's going to appear on your general election ballot. If it's whether opposed or unopposed, that leaves it open-ended. But when we qualified that with whose name will appear, that was intentional to say that individual is the person whose name is going to appear on that general election ballot. It does not leave open-ended a broad, I'm filing my official documents or I filed my treasurer's report. We think that narrows it down.
Well, okay, the process is, having gone through it myself.
Yes, sir.
Is one, and as well as my colleagues, is the same thing. One is I can verbally say I'm going to run.
That's right.
But I'm not a candidate officially, in my opinion, until I file my documents, whether it be with the Republican Party or Democrat or whatever.
Right.
Once I file and pay that fee, whatever that fee is, and I sign my name, then I become a candidate.
Right. And so that was part of the issue as to what does that mean? Is it when I officially filed? But when I looked back at the elections code definition in terms of how it defined candidate, it talked about how a candidate could be defined as somebody that even just makes that announcement without even filing any documents. Or say, for example, that person was interviewed by the news media and they say, I will be filing for office but have not done so. Under the elections code, at least that broad definition, that's how it defined candidate, and that's where it lied in our issue too, as to how are we then supposed to really hold these individuals to it if maybe they made that announcement but never even filed later on. It just didn't make sense to, or it didn't have a pronounced deadline, if you will, or a definite mark as to how this ethics code would apply. But the elections code left that or leaves that definition pretty open-ended. And so it could even mean just as that you've just made that public, I'm going to run, but nothing has officially been done yet.
Ms. Sanchez?
Yes, sir.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think in the election code it says that if you tell more than 10 people, that's considered a public announcement or something like that, right? Is that?
No, I think I had the definition here. No, it didn't have the amount of individuals that you can tell.
If I say, if I make, if I have an event and there's only
right
5 people there,
right,
better not run.
Yeah,
I'm not a candidate. I don't know.
No, there's no
10
set.
People, 10
right.
people know.
No, sir. There's not a
Okay.
set amount of individuals, and actually, there's also a line of AG opinions as well that did an analysis on that in terms of, and it really more so pertained to a resign to run position where did somebody make an announcement of their candidacy for an office if they just had an interview with a newspaper and said, I intend, I'm intending to run for county attorney or intending to run for a commissioner's court position. What the AG had said is that has come down, and what it can mean is that you effectively have resigned your position to run. So it's not a set amount of people. It's just that public announcement. And so we're trying to wrangle that in a little bit, if you will, in all fairness, for those candidates to keep them informed of how this ethics code applies to them.
Well, using that analogy that Commissioner Stout just presented, if you have an event and through the course of that event, he receives 1 penny,
right,
and has not filed the official document to declare the candidate,
that's right,
to include appointing a treasurer, he's in trouble.
That's right, because you have not done your official appointment of treasurer.
If you if you accept one penny, there's not a threshold. I thought it was like $500 or something like that.
Yeah, I think there is a threshold in terms of when
receiving
right.
campaign contributions. If you receive more than 500, then and you haven't filed a treasurer report, then you're in trouble.
And as I understand, this is cutting edge, really, for the state of Texas. El Paso is, and I appreciate you emphasizing the scandal many years ago, as far as the years. And really, this is a model policy that I understand we've received calls from other counties to see how we do it here. So congratulations.
Yes, no, thank you. I know, and just very quickly, I think I had brought this back to the court a couple of months ago, but we know of one other jurisdiction, I believe it's Montgomery County, if I can recall. They were looking to adopt, and they passed, now they can opt into the county code of ethics, but in the process of when they were opting in, they sought to delete the candidate for public office reference, and thanks to the work of our lobbyists, they stopped that because, again, we went back and educated them in terms of the reasons why. And again, that was from Senator Rodriguez as well, who was at the forefront of passing this type of legislation.
Thank
you.
you.
No, appreciate that.
As I understand it, no action is
No,
required.
sir. This is just for informational purposes. The the Ethics Commission wanted HR as well as myself to provide this information to the court. Get any feedback? Definitely, we'll share that information so that everybody is aware that these are the changes that are coming, to alert the public that these changes are coming before any final action is taking place. And right now, I'm going to turn over very quickly to Ms. Carrillo, who will go over the procedure and how we're going to inform.
I think Commissioner Perez has a question.
Well, thank you for the presentation, and thanks to the members of the Ethics Commission. These are voluntary positions, and so we do appreciate their work anytime they look into these matters. So if I'm understanding correctly, essentially what this is doing is it's narrowing essentially the applicability of the commission's, I guess, oversight just to the candidates after the primary.
That's true. Yes, that is
so,
correct.
Whereas right now, currently, it applies to candidates who declare for the primary.
Or who knew when, and we haven't had any instance in terms of any enforcement. I mean, it was really kind of the first time that we were really looking at this to figure out the application, but that's correct. Yes,
Right.
sir.
You know, my only concern with that, with narrowing it down to that scope, is just that in a community like ours, I don't think there's any current Republican office holder, and the vast majority of candidates come during the primary phase of the election. And I think part of the intent, was to promote greater transparency. And I think by making, I think anybody who, I think the Commissioner's right, there's a $500 threshold, and anybody who raises more than $500 then has to declare or submit some sort of notification for a campaign treasurer.
That's right.
I don't know if it's possible just to have that as a standard, as maybe once somebody has a campaign treasurer, because I think there's a public interest in this, in having the public know, I guess, what special interests or what other, PACs or whatever might be contributing to candidates as well.
Right.
And I think that by just looking at from the primary on, I think we lose a lot of transparency. Particularly when it comes to donations, because I think right now the process says even candidates, and it's similar to the city of El Paso, have to put on the Commissioner's Court agenda.
That's right.
Whenever they receive a certain threshold of applicants, and ultimately I think that's a good thing because
right.
In this area where print media is becoming more challenging, they're in a challenging environment. I think any time we can afford the opportunity for further disclosure or transparency. Even for candidates, because even though this information might be included in their campaign finance report, it's not always easy to go into each individual campaign finance report, whereas I think putting it on the agenda helps provide that additional degree of transparency. But I think by limiting this just to the general election, I mean, you're missing the vast majority of candidates and the vast majority of fundraising, the vast majority of folks who receive contributions during that.
Right, and if I recall, in terms of the disclosures on the public finance, for the campaign contributions that have to be that's posted for the Commissioner's Court agenda, I believe that's only applicable to the commissioners and the county judge, right? So, and what the rule states is that any contribution of $2,500 over the 12-month period. So that would capture, well, essentially, you're not supposed to be.
And that's regardless of whether it's primary or general,
That's
right?
correct. Yeah, that's correct. There's no scope. So it would still apply in terms of the posting requirement for that. But we'll certainly share that information. And I could tell you that they being the Ethics Commission had brought that argument as well in terms of the the campaign treasurer filing and trying to figure out how the scope, but we'll definitely raise that again.
Because right now, even candidates, non-office holder candidates
That's right.
in the primary have to put an item on the agenda to disclose that. And I think that under this definition, you'd lose that level of transparency, right?
That definition of the code, Commissioner, is different from where we're making the attempted change, and so that would still satisfy the requirement of the 2,500, whether it be in dollar amount or in kind contribution, because it specifies that rule to members of Commissioners Court, whether elected or not. So the rule still specifies whether this rule changes or not. The rule that you're referencing on the $2,500 requirement is in a different portion of the code that is not going to be altered.
Okay, so even non-office holder candidates would still have to
Would
put
still
that?
have to, yes, sir. For members of Commissioners Court.
And I'll go back and just double check to see if that's the case. If not, we will definitely bring that before the Ethics Commission, regardless, just to make sure that they're aware of that issue and that concern.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you're saying, Melissa, what you're saying is is that a state law or a state requirement that has to be, or
No,
is that
that's the county's requirement.
Yeah.
That's it, yeah.
And it does say or candidate for a seat.
Right.
Oh, okay, so then.
Which is why it wouldn't be altered based on this definition.
We're defining candidate.
Okay.
Okay, I just want to be sure that that's, because again, I think there's a public interest again in having, those disclosure requirements for candidates during the primary. And I just want to be sure that we don't lose that, because I think there's an important public disclosure that comes with that in terms of who's contributing, to campaigns at the primary. And if you just limit it to.
Yeah, I agree, because a lot of times, a number of us in county elections, we run unopposed in the general because it's so hard to get elected in certain areas and within the county as a Republican, and so you're only basically capturing whoever won the Democratic primary.
Basically right, and that's why I think in the interest of transparency, I mean, you should be wanting as many candidates as possible to fall under this. I know it can get a little difficult with the definition, but I think if somebody has filed for a treasurer and has exceeded that $500 threshold, and if that individual were to receive, a non-office holder candidate were to receive a $2,500 contribution, I just want to still be sure that goes on the agenda, and that the Ethics Commission conducts some sort of oversight if there's if there's a failure to do that.
And I'm looking at the definition right now. We put that up, and it says, yes, if a member of Commissioners Court candidate for a seat on Commissioners Court accepts political campaign contributions of. So we'll need to flesh that out. If the intent of the Ethics Commission is to narrow it, I understand what you're saying. Yes, sir.
I mean, y'all just want to make sure that they're not that the cone of silence between vendors and candidates is being taken care of, right? So that we don't have what happened in the past where, somebody who has won a primary who may be issuing is not, talking to vendors and before they're in office. If they have a contract coming up or something like that.
Yes, sir.
So I think that's good, just as long as the definition of the candidate that you're changing doesn't I agree with Commissioner Pettis, doesn't preclude any of the other requirements of candidates, because if they're only a candidate after the primary, then that could cut out everybody that.
Right, and you wouldn't want to place a greater burden on a elected than a candidate.
Right.
Commissioner Ross?
For clarity on the $2,500, two things. One is that one donation?
No,
we're talking about a combined.
Yes, sir.
Combined amount. Okay. And then the other point is that as far as which is good that you modifying and making changes there to the Ethics Commission, because as a candidate, how does he or she know
right.
that there's a requirement, that the Commissioners Court has a requirement to report $2,500 donation? So there's got to be, because when the candidate receives his or her packet, that information is not there. So
that's before
it will be. It will be now.
I'm not telling what will be. Yes, we'll tell it will be, but it was not there.
Correct.
Because it applied to me.
Correct.
Okay, so what I'm saying is that the Commissioners Court may pass a resolution making a requirement. But the disconnect is that when I went to get my packet,
Right.
that's not in my packet.
Correct.
So how can you be sanctioned or criticized for something that you didn't know and that was not provided to you?
So,
So there's got to be a mechanism where there's a connection between what we say on the Commissioners Court and apply to the changes that you're making here, that they're all in sync.
So, Commissioner Robinson, correct. What you're bringing up is exactly some of the discussions your Ethics Commission had last year, where how are we passing rules in our code that candidates for office or current office holders aren't even aware of. That was a big concern for your Elections Commission. And so through these discussions, what we worked on were notification procedures that, as you mentioned, did not exist and still do not exist until our Ethics Commission truly changes those rules. And so, as Christina mentioned, we presented to the Elections Commission last Tuesday. They vetted some great feedback that we want to go back and tweak. We've heard some from you all as well. But on the slide that I have before you, this is the notification procedures that we started working on with the Ethics Commission, forgive me. And what we identified was there is no one currently notifying candidates, hey, did you know you're bound to the county's ethics code? We spoke to both the Democratic and the Republican Party chairs. We vetted it in the Ethics Commission, and we said, who is the best party to make those notifications? Should we put that burden on the party chairs and say when someone files or when someone renews to file, should they be notifying them? And we thought, that's a good idea, but how do we enforce it when we're the ones here at the county that are watching and abiding by this code? So what we did is we worked with Lisa Wise, and we said, should it be her office? What we ended up concluding was that my office, who houses and staffs the Ethics Commission and who serves as secretary to the commission, our secretary will be the one who notifies every candidate. And there's a draft letter that you do not have in your backup, but it looks something like this, and it's been shared with the Ethics Commission. I'd be happy to share it with you all. But it basically says, dear candidate, congratulations on securing your nomination for elected office. And it continues to go into, now as a candidate who has secured your primary, whose name will appear on the general election, the following link, it will take you to the code. But then it says, of significance, there are 4 areas that we really need you to pay attention to. And they include the lobbying activity, the procurement piece, campaign contributions for those running for Commissioners Court, and the training piece. And so we're hoping that by notifying our candidates through this letter at the onset, we will work very closely with the Elections Department. And Ms. Weiss has indicated that as soon as those lists are generated, she will turn them over to us, and we will make that notification procedure. That has been missing, that currently is missing, and that is something that we're trying to fill the gap on. So you're correct to bring that up. Our Ethics Commission has advised us to work on seeing what we can do to clean that up.
But shouldn't
Appreciate that, but by the same token, that's after I have filed. So
that's after the primary.
Right. It's after the primary.
after the primary,
Sheet shows.
Okay.
going back to
That packet should be sent out once somebody files the treasurer
treasurer.
report.
That's what I was going to
Part
say.
of the problem is, part of the, what I know one of the problems we ran into before is that and I don't understand the process completely, so forgive me, but a lot of people file with the party first, and so we don't know.
No, a lot of people file with the Elections Department first. They file for a treasurer because under state law, if you're going to raise more than or if you hit a $500,000 or $500 threshold, you have to file for a treasurer with the Elections Department. And I think that's probably the more appropriate point to, as soon as somebody files, everybody who files for a treasurer should get some sort of notice, just, hey, be advised.
So we almost like basically need 2 phases, or 2 definitions of candidate. Primary candidate definition and who is subject to the $2,500 reporting, and then other candidates.
General election
candidates.
Nominee.
We absolutely would be happy to take this back. So Christina and I are again, staff for our Ethics Commission, and we're advising. At the Elections Commission meeting we had last Tuesday, we had members from our Elections Commission in the audience. They unfortunately could not be with us today, but this is all great information, and Christina and I were talking, we'll take this back to the Ethics Commission. We meet with them this Thursday, and so that was exactly the reason by which they wanted us to present to these two bodies. So we'll take this change to them. We'll make some recommendations based on what we heard from you all this morning, and we'll definitely keep you posted on what the Ethics Commission decides.
One more now. And then also by the definition, does this only applicable to Commissioners Court candidates? I mean, because it should be applicable to any county elected office. So it would be like sheriff, I would imagine county clerk. I don't know if district clerk applies. I know it doesn't apply to district judges, right? They're out of the purview of the Ethics Commission, but does it apply to county judges?
Are you talking about the 25,000?
Mm-hmm.
It's only Commissioners Court.
The 25,000 is only
The
Commissioners Court, but the rest of the code of ethics applies to any county employee, officer.
I mean, personally, I think the $2,500 requirement should apply to any countywide office holder, because they're also deal with the procurement process and who they receive campaign contributions from. I think is a public interest.
I'll need to look back and see. I don't know if Betsy remembers off the top of her head, but I'd have to go back and look when this rule was created, because remember, we together created this within the last decade. And so I need to go back and see why this was created and specified only to members of Commissioners Court.
Because they're the ultimate decision makers on contracts and funding. So that's why it was narrowed down to Commissioners Court. So to make sure that the court had no previous basically, or if they did, that it was disclosed, any relations with anybody that we may do business with.
Thank you. Great presentation, and I imagine you're going to be back.
Yes, I imagine we will. Thank you for
your work was done, huh?
It's never done. Thank you for your feedback. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Item number 12, Budget and Finance. Approve Amendment number 39 to the County of El Paso's 2018-2019 operating budget. This budgetary amendment will increase grants by $23,099.50, thus increasing the overall budget of $444,533,502.16 to $444,556,601.66.
Good morning, Judge Commissioners. Wally Hargrove from the Office of Budget and Fiscal Policy. The backup for this week's amendment was sent to you last week. Were there any questions regarding this week's amendment?
Commissioners? Sure. I guess the largest transfer was from the juvenile probation challenge, the salaries full time. If you can go over that a little bit.
Yes, sir. So within the juvenile probation, the main index, they transferred some salary and fringe, $206,000 out of that line item. 115 stayed within juvenile probation. That $115,000 is intended to be used for books and subscriptions, operating supplies, $15,000, communications for $40,000 for a past due invoice that was received this year, $15,000 in travel, $40,000 for professional services. Those professional services are for sex offender treatment, case management services, home mental services, counseling, and $85,000 for renovation, and $110,000 for furniture and fixtures. The renovation, they're taking out old carpet and putting in rubber flooring, as I understand, and then also they are rubber tiles, and they're also replacing small furnishing for 26 offices. They had requested this through our one penny CIP in prior years, which was denied. So they're transferring those funds into equipment to cover that furniture replacement. Within the detention facility, they're transferring $20,000 into overtime, $40,000 into professional services. That is for their medical contract with Texas Tech Pediatrics. Challenge, $20,000 to cover projected overtime cost, and in the juvenile kitchen, $15,000 for overtime and $60,000 for food purchases to cover cost of produce and increases with general food. And they're also doing a $10,000 transfer within their special revenue account to cover general juvenile educational items and supplies.
And, you know, one, again, as I said, I think I said this last week, one reason I bring these up is just because at this time of year is where we get a lot of requests for transfers, especially from contingency accounts. But in this one, I guess, why is it that there was, that much surplus funding in salaries, full-time, regular, in both the juvenile probation challenge and juvenile probation general fund? Because it's a combined 300,000. Was it because there are vacancies? Is it because that they
turnover and vacancies? Am I correct, Albert?
And so, I mean, I guess see that, and that's the thing, is it just begs the question. So depending on, I hope that's something it is, as we go through the budget process, I hope that's something that you're looking at, because if there aren't positions, you know, that let's say that weren't filled the entire year or something like that, and that money's, you know, being diverted for other uses, but they still come forward and make the personnel request the following year, they're going to likely need, you know, these funds reappropriated again. I just want to be sure that we're budgeting correctly.
And HR has a vacancy list on how long positions have been vacant, and basically the concern is that JPD is not holding positions vacant year after year after year, and then utilizing the funding kind of as a reserve. So we can make sure as part of the analysis of that. I do think that used to be a more common practice, but I don't think it's as common any longer, but we need to verify that.
Okay. Yeah, just like I said, it's just, especially now with the revenue caps, we just got to be sure that we're appropriating line items, you know, appropriately, you know, that we're not, you know, putting too much in something that's ultimately going to be transferred for something else. I mean, if we know that there's been, you know, let's say if it's just one or two positions that just haven't been used, well, then we really need to then start examining, or do those positions need to be removed from the manning table, and then we then look at these, you know, other types of funding requests that might come up the next fiscal year. You know, that's why I bring that up.
Understood. We'll work with HR to review that.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Perez.
Aye.
Commissioner Leon.
Aye.
Commissioner Stout.
Aye.
Commissioner Robinson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Commissioners' Court will now recess into executive session to discuss items 13A through 13C pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071. Commissioners' Court will reconvene to take official action.
Stay cool this summer by visiting any of the El Paso County pools Tuesday through Sunday from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. Don't forget about family night on Thursdays from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. For more information, call 915-771-2380.
The County of El Paso Public Works Department is offering sandbags at no cost or requirements to the public. The sandbags are outside of the facilities and are available 24 hours a day. The location of the counter facilities are the following: the Road and Bridge Fabens Warehouse, located at 1331 North Fabens Street in Fabens, Texas, 79838. The Road and Bridge Canutillo Warehouse, located at 191 Canutillo Avenue in Canutillo, Texas, 79835. And the Road and Bridge Montana Warehouse, located at 14698 Van Lane, El Paso, Texas, 79938.
Don't wait in line, pay online. Visit the Financial Recovery Division website at http://www.epcounty.com/budget/financialrecovery.htm to make your payments online or find out more about our kiosk locations. We now accept payments on misdemeanor, felony, and justice of the peace cases.
You can now watch Commissioners Court meetings on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and search for El Paso County Commissioners or El Paso County, Texas. Subscribe to our channels to see our latest videos.
Did you know the County of El Paso's Purchasing Department is responsible for ensuring that all items and services needed by various county departments are purchased in the manner required by the state of Texas? Whether through formal sealed bids or smaller dollar quotations, the county purchasing team is dedicated to finding the best contracting return on your taxpayer dollars. Additionally, the Purchasing Department is responsible for the tracking of inventory within the county and properly disposing surplus through public auctions. For questions about how to become a vendor and compete for county contracts, or to learn more about public auctions, please contact us at telephone number 915-546-2048.
The 346 District Court Judge Angie Juarez Barril started the El Paso Veterans Treatment Court program in 2012 for veterans and active service members that have been arrested and charged with a felony or misdemeanor criminal offense. To be considered for this specialty court, the statutory criteria includes be a veteran or current member of the United States Armed Forces, including a member of the Reserves, National Guard, or State Guard, and suffer from a brain injury, mental illness, or mental disorder, including PTSD, or be a victim of military sexual trauma, all occurring or resulting from military service. Call Sylvia Serna, Veterans Program Director, at 915-546-2119, or email her at sserna@epcounty.com for any information.
Did you know that the County of El Paso's fixed asset control and inventory disposal is handled through the Purchasing Department? Throughout the course of each business year, the county holds live public auctions to dispose of aged equipment, vehicles, furniture, and other items that are no longer needed. To find out about upcoming auctions or to learn more about the county's inventory disposal process, contact the Purchasing Department at telephone number 915-546-2048. Stay cool this summer by visiting any of the El Paso County pools Tuesday through Sunday from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. Don't forget about family night on Thursdays from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. For more information, call 915-771-2380.
The County of El Paso Public Works Department is offering sandbags at no cost or requirements to the public. The sandbags are outside of the facilities and are available 24 hours a day. The location of the county facilities are the following: the Road and Bridge Fabens Warehouse, located at 1331 North Fabens Street in Fabens, Texas, 79838. The Road and Bridge Canutillo Warehouse, located at 191 Canutillo Avenue in Canutillo, Texas, 79835. And the Road and Bridge Montana Warehouse, located at 14698 Van Lane, El Paso, Texas, 79938.
Don't wait in line, pay online. Visit the Financial Recovery Division website at http://www.epcounty.com/budget/financialrecovery.htm to make your payments online or find out more about our kiosk locations. We now accept payments on misdemeanor, felony, and justice of the peace cases.
You can now watch Commissioners Court meetings on YouTube. Go to youtube.com and search for El Paso County Commissioners or El Paso County, Texas. Subscribe to our channels to see our latest videos.
Did you know the County of El Paso's Purchasing Department is responsible for ensuring that all items and services needed by various county departments are purchased in the manner required by the state of Texas? Whether through formal sealed bids or smaller dollar quotations, the county purchasing team is dedicated to finding the best contracting return on your taxpayer dollars. Additionally, the purchasing department is responsible for the tracking of inventory within the county and properly disposing surplus through public auctions. For questions about how to become a vendor and compete for county contracts, or to learn more about public auctions, please contact us at telephone number 915-546-2048.
The 346 District Court Judge Angie Juarez Barriz started the El Paso Veterans Treatment Court program in 2012 for veterans and active service members that have been arrested and charged with a felony or misdemeanor criminal offense. To be considered for the specialty court, the statutory criteria includes be a veteran or current member of the United States Armed Forces, including a member of the Reserves, National Guard, or State Guard, and suffer from a brain injury, mental illness, or mental disorder, including PTSD, or be a victim of military sexual trauma, all occurring or resulting from military service. Call Sylvia Serna, Veterans Program Director, at 915-546-2119, or email her at sserna@epcounty.com for any information.
Did you know that the County of El Paso's fixed asset control and inventory disposal is handled through the Purchasing Department? Throughout the course of each business year, the county holds live public auctions to dispose of aged equipment, vehicles, furniture, and other items that are no longer needed. To find out about upcoming auctions or to learn more about the county's inventory disposal process, contact the Purchasing Department at telephone number 915-546-2048.
Commissioners Court has reconvened into regular open session. Item number 14, approve and authorize Commissioners Court Commissioner Carlos Leon to sign a statement designating authority to Melissa Carrillo, Chief Human Resources Officer, to correspond with the Department of the Treasury Internal Revenue Service in connection with the Department of the Treasury Internal Revenue Service information document requested dated June 26, 2019.
And the recommendation would be to approve this item, or item number 14.
Move to approve. Second.
Commissioner Perez.
Aye.
Commissioner Leon.
Can I vote for myself, Christina?
I'm sorry?
Can I vote for
Yes,
myself?
yes, absolutely.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
all right. Aye.
Commissioner Stout.
Aye.
Commissioner Robinson.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And that, we didn't have anything else pending, right, Caesar?
No, sir.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.
This concludes today's meeting at 11:51 a.m.